I died in the war in Ukraine, and for 2 weeks I was dragged into a place that felt like hell itself. The doctors said my heart stopped for 4 minutes, but what they don't know is that for me, I spent months there, months surrounded by dead soldiers who didn't know they were dead, months listening to people scream without ever being able to die, and even now, I still wake up in the middle of the night feeling hands trying to pull me back. It all started during a mission near Donetsk. Our unit was moving through a destroyed forest covered in dirty snow and the remains of burned military vehicles. The radio had stopped working a while earlier, but nobody wanted to admit what that meant. In war, silence is worse than gunfire. Silence means someone is already watching you. The forest felt wrong, almost alive, like it was waiting for blood. Then it happened. An explosion tore 2 men apart right in front of me. Before I could even react, gunfire erupted from every direction. It was a Russian ambush. I saw soldiers ripped in half by explosions. I saw my best friend drop to his knees with half his face missing. The sound of bullets cracking through the trees was so loud it felt like the sky itself was breaking apart. We tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. They had planned everything perfectly. Then I felt something tear through my stomach. It was like being stabbed with burning metal. I collapsed into the snow instantly. I tried to breathe, but my lungs stopped working. Everything became distant. The screams faded. The gunfire sounded underwater. The sky above me turned black. And then I died. But I didn't wake up in a hospital. I didn't see a white light. I didn't see angels. When I opened my eyes, I was lying in a place that should not exist. The sky was dark gray, covered in smoke. The ground looked like mud mixed with blood and rotting flesh. The air smelled like burned bodies, and somewhere in the distance, I could still hear explosions, gunfire, and people screaming in agony. At first, I thought I had survived. I thought maybe I had been captured. But then, I looked down at my body. My uniform was still torn open where I had been shot, except the wound wasn't bleeding anymore. It looked wrong, hollow, like something had ripped part of my soul out along with the flesh. That was when I started seeing the others. Soldiers wandered endlessly through the ruins. Some Ukrainian, some Russian. None of them looked human anymore. Many were mutilated. Some had no arms. Others had no faces. Some crawled across the ground with half their bodies missing, yet they were still alive. And the worst part, many of them didn't realize they were dead. They kept fighting invisible enemies. They kept trying to reload weapons that no longer existed. One Russian soldier with no jaw kept repeating that he needed to go home to his mother. Another man wandered in circles while holding his own organs in his hands, and none of them could die again. The suffering never ended. After some time in that place, I realized we weren't alone. Things were watching us from the shadows, tall creatures hiding between destroyed buildings and clouds of smoke. At first, they looked human, until they came closer. Their skin looked burned and melted like rotting corpses left in fire. Their arms were unnaturally long, their eyes completely black, and they fed on suffering. I watched one of them approach a mutilated soldier crying on the ground. The creature leaned close to his face, and something dark began pouring out of the man's body like smoke. The soldier started screaming in a way I had never heard before. It wasn't physical pain, it was terror itself, pure despair, and while he screamed, the creature seemed to grow stronger. Time did not exist normally there. There was no day, no night, only endless suffering. For the doctors, I was in a coma for 2 weeks, but for me, it felt like months trapped in that nightmare. Slowly, I started forgetting who I was. My mother's face began fading from my memory. Even my own voice sounded unfamiliar. And then I found the cities. Massive dark cities hidden beyond the ruins, filled with enslaved souls. Dead people chained together, carrying debris endlessly through endless streets. Creatures watching them from the tops of ruined buildings. Some spirits had gone completely insane and attacked anyone nearby like wild animals. Others simply sat motionless, repeating the moment of their death over and over again, like they were trapped inside an eternal loop. But nothing was worse than the field, a massive wasteland covered with thousands of mutilated soldiers spread across black mud. Some had no heads, some had no skin, some were still trying to crawl even without legs, and walking between them were gigantic creatures, enormous things moving slowly among the dead like farmers inspecting livestock before slaughter. Every time a soul tried to escape, those creatures dragged them back into the suffering. That was the moment I understood something horrifying. The war never ended there. The soldiers kept fighting long after death because the war was still alive inside them. Then I heard it, a sound in the distance, a beep, then another, then voices. The entire world around me started shaking violently. The creatures became agitated. The dead began screaming in panic, and I felt hands grabbing my arms, trying to pull me back into the darkness. Voices whispered that I belonged there now, that I was one of them. Then everything disappeared. I woke up in a military hospital in Ukraine. The doctors told me my heart had stopped during the rescue. They said I had been in a coma for 2 weeks, but I know what I saw, because even now I still can't sleep without hearing distant gunfire. Sometimes I wake up smelling burned flesh in my room, and every once in a while, I open my eyes in the middle of the night and see soldiers standing silently in the darkness beside my bed. Faceless soldiers, mutilated soldiers, watching me.